our smiling Mylan right there. And so it's just awesome to see you guys giving so much to the welcome. I feel welcome this morning, guys. I don't know about you. And then, of course, with the Underhill Juniors, Joseph and Magnolia, wow. Thank you guys for sharing your heart with community and being so vulnerable, being so open and sharing your heart. And we're just so grateful for the sacrifice of the Mexico City Church to send you guys here to the South region and to be here with us. You know, guys, as I said, we've got now 4 Underhills and 2 Josephs in the region. Well, what's going to happen? Who knows, right? But thank you guys so much for bringing us to the foot of the cross. And then, of course, with Richard, with the contribution, that was short, sweet, and powerful, bro. You know, just teaching us and telling us what to do. And Richard is a great example of contribution. This brother is faithful, consistent, and he's always giving his contribution, whether it comes to contra or missions. And so, Richard, thank you for your example, bro. And now it's time for the lesson, guys. And it's cool because in the South, we've been going over the Mark series. And last week we did Mark 4, and we talked about, you know, the parable of the sower and the heart of man. Well, today we're going to be in Mark 5, and we're going to talk about like one account in particular of this guy who changed. And the title of the lesson this morning is Anyone Can Change. Anyone can change, even you. And sometimes that's the person that we have the least amount of faith that can change is ourselves. But as a church, we have to have the conviction, guys, that anybody can change. And we're going to be in Mark chapter 5.
Come on, bro.
Ready to count right here. And we do have a treat after the close. We're going to be watching the Good News Network, the second video, which will be great right there. But we're going to be in Mark 5. And guys, it has been an incredible month. Not only in the region, but in the movement worldwide. This is the last Sunday for the September to Remember campaign. And in September, we've had Amitai, Cameron, and Sabri get baptized, and Joseph and Magnolia place membership. And that's pretty memorable right there. We're going to look back and remember these things. But now we're headed into October. And you got to think, okay, well, what's the theme for the church? What's the campaign, if you would, for the church going into October? And, you know, Kip has come up with something awesome. And, you know, the October is known for Oktoberfest. We turned that not into Oktoberfest, but into Rocktoberbest, because the month of October is going to rock right there. And it's going to be awesome to see what God does in the month of October, not just here in the South, but worldwide right there. Mark chapter 5, and in verse 1, it says, they went across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes. When Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an impure spirit came from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. For he had often been chained hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart and broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills, he would cry out and cut himself with stones. So right here, Jesus is headed over with his guys to the region of the Gerasenes, over the Lake of Galilee, and this is the east side, the Gentile side of the lake right here. And as soon as they get out of the boat, you've got this guy who runs up to meet Jesus. Now you gotta think, what did this guy look like? Well, he was living among the tombs, he was demon-possessed, and he had been tied up with chains only to break out. So you got to imagine the shock of Jesus and the guys when they see this guy running towards them at full speed. That would be pretty scary right there, right? What's interesting is that this account of the demon-possessed man is in each synoptic gospel. So we're going to go to the account of Luke and even pick up an extra detail right here of what this would have looked like. See if you guys can pick this up. In Luke chapter 8. Luke chapter 8.
Come on, Joseph.
And in verse 26. Luke chapter 8, verse 26. Let me know if you guys can pick up the extra detail. It says, they sailed to the region of the Gerasenes, which is across the lake from Galilee. When Jesus stepped ashore, he was met by a demon-possessed man from the town. For a long time, this man had not worn clothes or lived in a house, but had lived in the tombs. Okay, so what was the extra detail? Not only was this guy running towards Jesus and the guys, but he was naked. So you've got this demon-possessed guy, thank you, this demon-possessed guy, he looks crazy, and he's naked running towards Jesus and the guys. That would be shocking right there, you know what I'm talking about? But he was running towards Jesus. And you got to ask yourself, why was he running towards Jesus? Well, I think back in Mark chapter 5, verse 5, it tugs at our hearts. It says that night and day, this guy was crying out and cutting himself with stones. This guy was in a state of desperation. There was no hope. There was pain. For him to cry many tears at night and even harm himself, cut himself in this way. And he ran to Jesus. We got to ask yourself, how did he even know that Jesus was going to be there for him to run towards Jesus? Well, in the previous chapter of Mark chapter 4, right before this, they're on the boat headed over to right here. And it says that a storm comes up. And it's such a furious storm that it almost sinks the boat that Jesus is in. The disciples wake Jesus up, and he rebukes the storm, and it goes away. You can imagine this demon-possessed man lives close to the lake for him to be able to run up to Jesus like this. So the night before, he's looking out at the lake. And I imagine that he sees this storm, this furious squall with the lightning and the thunder and the waves. And then in an instant, it's totally calm. There's peace. And I imagine a glimmer of hope in this man's heart and mind that, man, something was coming that could still the storms in his life. Something was coming that could give him the same peace that he had just witnessed. And so he runs out to meet Jesus and his guys. But he was crying many tears. Our first point this morning is simply many tears. You know, I wonder if we were able to look into all the houses in the city of Long Beach and all of the houses in the South region and all of the houses of LA and in the US and in the world, how many people would we see just like this demon-possessed man? How many people crying out, hurting, in pain, in desperation, even to the brink of hurting themselves? So many people can relate to the demon-possessed man. You know, and we had the privilege of studying the Bible last year with many incredible men, but one stood out in particular. And we were studying the Bible with this guy, Cal State Long Beach student. And, you know, the studies go pretty smooth, but then we got to the cross and nobody was expecting what was going to happen. And this young man, he starts confessing his sin. He starts getting open and he started crying, and all of the brothers and myself, we started crying because of what he was sharing. He had shared the loneliness that he had felt, the pain that he had felt, the depression that he had felt, not feeling loved in any way, even to the point of considering suicide, to the point of considering taking his own life because of the sadness that he was in, the tears that he had been shedding. And yet, thank God, just a day or two after that, he got baptized into Christ, amen. And now he's one of the most cheerful, joyful, faithful, hardworking brothers that you know, and that's our brother Ezekiel Adelano, guys. And one of the most incredible brothers, awesome brothers to be around, and the transformation that happened in Zeke's life is incredible. And now we call him just Faithful Zeke. Faithful Zeke. Anyone can change, guys. Maybe this morning you can relate to the demon-possessed man. Maybe this morning it's been you who's been crying out at night. There's been a desperation, a lack of hope. Well, this morning there's hope. In the same way that this man ran to Jesus, I want to challenge you. If you're visiting, run to Jesus. Do a Bible study with the person who brought you out so you can figure out how to get this healing, how to get this hope, and how to get this change. Amen, guys? Do a study with the person who brought you out. Moving on here to our second point. In verse 6 of Mark chapter 5.
Come on, Joseph.
Mark chapter 5, verse 6. Anyone can change. It says, when he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In God's name, don't torture me." For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you impure spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, for we are many. And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, send us among the pigs. Allow us to go into them. He gave them permission, and the impure spirits came out and went to the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Okay, so this guy runs up to Jesus. He falls on his knees. And inferred in this passage is that Jesus tried to cast out the demons, but this guy was still demon possessed. And so Jesus just stands back. He's like, okay, I got to know what I'm up against right here. And he asks the guy, what is your name? And guys, picture this with me. I imagine that this sounded something like this. He said, what is your name? And the guy responds, Legion. You know what I mean? And all the disciples take a step back. It's like, oh, baby. And then Jesus knows what he's up against. This guy didn't just have one demon. There were many demons inside of this guy. And it's interesting because the demons beg to get cast out into the pigs. So we know that it was a Gentile area because the pigs were there, right? Jesus grants them access. They go into the pigs, and the pigs go down and drown in the lake. So now you have to imagine this lake full of dead pigs floating on the lake right there. That's intense, guys. What a picture right there. Now, you got to ask, what did this cost? What was the cost for this one man's soul? Our second point is unsettling price. Unsettling price.
Woo, come on.
What was the cost for this one man's soul? 2,000 pigs. Now, guys, I'm from Alabama, amen, but I don't know much about pigs. Sorry to disappoint some of you guys. I know Gavin's probably looking at me like, you know, some type of way right now. Sorry, bro. I'm not a pig expert right there, even though I'm from Alabama. But all you got to do is some research, and you'll find that a pig is worth about $100. So what was the price? $100 times 2,000 pigs is $200,000. So what was the cost for this one man's soul? $200,000. Many people would think, hey, this is an unsettling price, but Jesus knew it was nothing in comparison to this man's soul. You know, I just really want to lift up the South region because we believe in raising money to save souls, guys. Our last missions contribution, we nearly raised $130,000 here just alone in the South region. A lot of people think, man, that's an unsettling price. But we know what the money is going towards is worth far more than the money itself. What exactly have our finances done? What exactly do they do when we raise missions and send it out? Well, this year, despite all of the challenges that we have faced as humanity, with coronavirus, with the quarantine, with injustice, all these things, we have still planted 7 churches so far. We planted Amsterdam, Netherlands in January. We planted Campinas, Brazil in February. We planted Guam in March. We planted Salt Lake City, Utah in March as well. San Diego and Tijuana earlier this month, September 13th. Last Sunday, we planted Tucson, Arizona and Minneapolis, Minnesota. Today is the inaugural service for the Bujumbura, Burundi church. And then next Sunday, we're having the inaugural service for the Tallahassee and Thomasville, the TNT church planting. But guys, we're not done. 2 Sundays from now, the Kolkata, India mission team is being sent out. And then finally, the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania mission team is being sent out from New York City at their Christmas service in December, guys. It is amazing to see what God has done and is continuing to do as we raise our finances and send them out. And I want to share about one church in particular, one of our international churches in particular, and that's Appia Samoa. And, you know, Appia Samoa was sent out last year, and last Sunday they had their inaugural service, or not inaugural service, their 1-year anniversary service, excuse me. And they started with 9 disciples last year. And in a year's time, they've grown by 150% to 24 sold out disciples and had 127 people in attendance at church last Sunday. That is amazing. This is what our money does. And very excitingly and warm to all of our hearts, Scotty's sister has been baptized and many family members are studying the Bible there as well in Appia, Samoa. Our money is producing fruit all over the world. As we raise finances to send out churches, it's giving hope for so many people that are just like this demon-possessed man, that have no hope, that are desperate. And yet as we raise the money, we're saving souls all over the world. I want to challenge all of us. Anyone can change, but there is a price. I want to challenge all of the disciples in the region. Continue to be faithful in your contribution and your missions giving. We know that another missions is going to come up. We know because the world still needs to be evangelized, but continue to be faithful in our missions giving and our contribution giving. Closing out right here for the third point, as we go and see what happened with this man back in Mark chapter 5 in verse 14. Anyone can change. Mark 5 verse 14. And it says, those tending the pigs ran off and reported this in the town and countryside. And the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there, dressed and in his right mind. And they were afraid. Okay, now this scripture's really got to get you right here, because these guys, they come down, but you've got this demon-possessed man who had been running around naked, crying out at night, living in the tombs, cutting himself, and they weren't afraid of him then, but then they come down and see him sitting, dressed and in his right mind, and now they're scared of him. It's like, man, how does that work right there? How does that translate right there? Now they're afraid. Okay, well, let's see what happens. Verse 16, those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man and told about the pigs as well. Then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region. Guys, Jesus was controversial. And in the same way we imitate Jesus, we're going to be controversial as well. But we can't be afraid of being controversial, guys, because that's the only way we're really going to help people out. Verse 18, it says that Jesus was getting into the boat. The man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. Jesus did not let him go, but said, go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you. So the man went away and began to tell him the Decapolis, how much Jesus had done for him. And all the people were amazed. So now the demon-possessed man was totally healed. He was totally changed and totally cleansed. And yet, what was his heart? Our third and final point is changed to change others. Changed to change others. This guy was totally forgiven. All these demons cast out of him, sitting normal in his right mind. And what was his heart? He begged to go with Jesus. He begged to go with him. Jesus didn't let him. He said, hey, no. What I want you to do, go back home. Go back to your place and tell everybody how much the Lord has done for you. Well, he goes back and he does that, but he doesn't even stop there. It says that he goes to the Decapolis, which is the 10 cities, and he starts preaching there as well. He was so moved. He was so motivated by how much he had been forgiven that he couldn't help but preaching the word. What's the heart that he had? We'll go to 1 Corinthians chapter 15 real fast. And we're going to see what is the heart that this demon-possessed man had when he was changed and when he was healed and forgiven. We find it in 1 Corinthians chapter 15.
Come on, Joey.
1 Corinthians 15 verse 9. And it says, for I am the least of the apostles, and do not even deserve to be called an apostle, because I persecuted the church of God. But by the grace of God, I am what I am. And his grace to me was not without effect. No, I worked harder than all of them. Yet not I, but the grace of God that was with me. And right here, we learn something incredible from the Apostle Paul. He says, man, I don't even deserve this. And he had been forgiven of so much, persecuting the church, killing Christians, to then become an apostle. But he was so moved by the grace of God that he said, I worked harder than all of them. That he worked hard to save souls because of the grace of God. And this was the same heart that this man had, that the demon-possessed man had. He was so moved by the grace of God. He was so moved by how much that he had been forgiven from, by how much that he had been changed, that his heart was to work hard to save souls. We see that somebody's hard work, their work ethic, and their evangelism is totally correlated to how much they're connected to the grace of God. This morning, I got to ask, how connected to the grace of God are you? How has it been going with your evangelism? How has it been going sharing your faith? How has it been going telling people how much the Lord has done for you? You know, I can't help but think of myself. You know, and when I got converted and studied the Bible, and I'm so grateful, guys. I'm so grateful. If you just remember your testimony right now, each one of us just remember our baptism real fast. Remember what it was like. Remember your life before a disciple, before in the world, and what it was like. You know, for me, I have done so much bad. I've done so much wrong. I've caused so much pain, and I was in so much pain as well. I would try to fill up my loneliness and my emptiness with alcohol and drugs. I would try to fill up my emptiness and loneliness with women, with partying, with all these different things. And I remember it got so bad at one point that I got put on probation as a teenager because I was going to cars, stealing from the cars. And then, you know, I got caught doing this. So I got put on probation for this, for theft. Then I drank so much alcohol one night when I was on probation that my mom literally, she comes downstairs. I'd come home late at night. She came downstairs and she found me on the floor of my bedroom on my back with vomit in my mouth. Not just vomit on my mouth, but I would have suffocated if she would have come down even 5 minutes later. I get sent off to the hospital. Then I go to juvie because I'm considered a danger to myself. And then I even go to rehab. All of these things happen. The pain I caused my mom, the hurts that I was going through, all of this. And yet I didn't even change my life. I went right back to drinking, to partying, to all these different things. Because I didn't know where to find this hope. I didn't know where to find this change. Well, I finally studied the Bible here in California, Pasadena City College. And I remember studying the Bible and blown away knowing that I could be forgiven of all that. That I could have all of these things forgiven, that I could be totally changed. And June 5th, 2015, I was baptized into Christ. Amen, guys? And it has been awesome the last 5 years of my life. And yet, what did I do because of this? I remember right after I got baptized, the week after, my best friend on the football team got baptized. That semester, several other football players got baptized. One that you even know, Austin Alexander, who's in Hawaii. He's an intern there, and he just got married last month. Now, I was just a baby disciple. I didn't know how to lead the first principle studies. I didn't know how to be effective at evangelism or have any of these skills. I didn't know what I was doing. I just had a testimony, and I wanted to share it. I was so moved by the grace of God that me, a sinner who had nearly died because of alcohol, who should be in hell, that I had been forgiven. And I just wanted to share it with everybody. All of us have a testimony. All of us have a testimony. You know, I want to just highlight a couple more churches who you can tell that they are connected to the grace by what God is doing in their church. The first one is Manila, Philippines. And I was just talking to Ricky last night, and it's been incredible to see what God has done in the Philippines, in Manila, for the September to Remember. And he was saying that they had 13 baptisms today, which is now yesterday for them. And there was a couple more who would be baptized tomorrow or Tuesday, giving them, Lord willing, 45 additions this month, 40 baptisms, 4 restorations, and 1 place membership in the month of September.
Wow, that's awesome.
You can tell that the Manila, Philippines, and the Southeast Asia churches are connected to the grace of God. The next church I want to highlight is our churches in the South Asian area, India and Nepal. And in the last 51 days, they've had 54 baptisms, guys. That is amazing to see what God has done there because they're connected to the grace of God. Each one of us has a testimony. Each one of us has a testimony. We are those who are connected to the grace of God. We are those who are moved by the grace of God, and because of this, we've got to share it with other people. Each one of us has a testimony. I want to challenge you, set up a study this week, but not just set up a study. I want to challenge you to share your testimony with somebody this week. I think oftentimes you can just invite people out to church and studies. That's great. Keep doing that, please. Don't stop that. But I want to challenge you in particular. Share your testimony with somebody. How much Jesus has done for you. You know, in closing, we've got to understand, guys, that anyone can change. And we've got to have a deep conviction that anybody can change, even us. We've got to be connected with the pain of the world. Understand people are hurting every single day. They're crying many tears. We've got to keep on giving because we know that our giving is saving souls all over the world. And we must continue to be in touch with the grace of God, how much that we've been saved to change others. And ultimately, that anybody can change. You know, maybe this morning you connect more with the demon-possessed man. Maybe you're the one who's been crying out and in pain. Do a study with the person who brought you out. Maybe this morning you've been healed, but there are some things that you're still getting into or you're getting entangled in some sin. You can change too. You can change too. And ultimately, leaving here, what do we have to walk away with? One thing. Well, if you take the first point, many tears, you take the M from that. If you take the second point, unsettling price, take the U from that. Take the third point, change to change others, take the CH from that, and it spells much. Leaving here, we've got to walk away telling people how much God has done for us. Have the conviction that anybody can change so that we can see God do incredible things in the South region. I love you guys, and to God be all the glory.
Come on, Joseph.